Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll hear from an immigration attorney on the details of the U.S. Senate's long-awaited comprehensive immigration plan. Also tonight, we'll have our midweek legislative update with the Arizona Capital Times, and we'll meet a local high school student who helps develop computer applications for Apple. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. The U.S. Senate's comprehensive immigration plan was unveiled today. The proposal includes a path to citizenship and requires employers to use E-Verify to check workers' eligibility. The plan also expands some visa categories while decreasing others and calls on the entire border to be monitored by Homeland Security. Joining us to help better explain the plan is immigration attorney Regina Jeffries. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
This is, how many pages we talking here?
844.
All right. Well, we can't go through all 844. But were there any surprises?
You know, I think that there were some surprises. There were also not surprises as well. So I think nobody was really surprised to see that a lot of this would be contingent on an increase in border security in order to get some of the things that, like the provisional status that would lead to citizenship ultimately for individuals who are here. But as far as surprises go, I mean, I think that one of the surprises was that the work-based visas, some of the work-based visas would be more tied to the market, that some of the family-based categories would be eliminated in favor of different types of immigration. So it was really actually an interesting mix of things that came out this bill.
Well, let's start with border security because it does seem like a lot of things depend on that. What does the plan call for and how does border security impact other aspects?
Yeah, so border security is actually a pretty big focus of the plan, and one of the things that it does is that it calls for reaching a 90% essentially apprehension rate on the southern border. So the main focus is on the southern border between the United States and Mexico. It calls for actually putting a lot more money into border security and those agencies that are working on the border, including increasing numbers of agents on the borders, increasing technology, use of drones, things like that.
90% apprehension rate, what does that mean? That means 10% got through? What is that?
It's a good question. I mean, this is something that there is a definition in the proposed bill of this, but I think that it's something that sort of remains to be seen because what they're talking about is a 90% apprehension rate of all entrants. So it's going to be interesting to see how they count all entrants if you're not catching 10% of them.
It seems like if you make it through, we never knew you were there in the first place, so how do we know you get, I guess
right.
they'll work that out.
They'll figure it out. There's a commission for that.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. There's also an adjusting of status to what's called provisional immigrant status. What does that mean?
Well, essentially what it means is this is sort of the first step on the path to permanent residency and then eventual citizenship for individuals who are here. It is important to note, though, that this category would not include every single person who is currently here unlawfully. It would actually leave out certain groups of individuals, like individuals with an aggravated felony, which is a term under immigration law. It would exclude individuals who have been convicted of a felony. So there are certain criminal bars to that as well. But for the vast majority of people who are here, it would provide sort of a stepping stone to that lawful permanent resident status, and it would allow them to be here legally in a status and to work and provide for their families.
And they would not have to go back home and reapply as some folks had suggested?
No, that's not part of the proposal at this point.
What about families? What does this mean for families of the undocumented that are here?
I mean, to be honest, for the families, it means more security. I mean, of course, this is just a proposed bill, so we still have to wait to see what comes of it. But it does really aim to keep families together. And there are actually one of the surprises, since you asked earlier, is that it would allow certain individuals who had been deported prior to the effective date of the bill to be able to apply to come back in if they didn't have any type of criminal record and if they could show that they had an immediate family member who's a U.S. citizen and who's living here.
As far as increasing visas for skilled workers, for unskilled workers, how does that play in here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that this bill does that's good is that it actually sort of looks more at a market-based approach for things like H-1Bs, which are visas for professional skilled workers, and which perpetually run out every year. I mean, there's an H-1B cap, so it's capped at a specific number of visas that's sort of just picked out of the air, basically. And so this bill recognizes that, hey, you can't just pick a number because the market will sort of dictate how many are needed in a certain year. And there may be more needed and there may be fewer needed.
And the question is, who decides what the market is saying?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, these are all details that I think that we'll have to kind of see come out as this is debated more.
And employment verification, also a major aspect of the plan. Basically, what, enhancing E-Verify, keeping E-Verify as it is? What is?
There actually do seem to be quite a few provisions to enhance E-Verify. It does make E-Verify mandatory, essentially, for employers across the country. So Arizona will be ahead of the game on that one, I think. But,
it sounds like it.
But yeah, it will actually make some changes to that.
So as far as addressing the path to citizenship, what changes?
Well, what changes is that it actually provides a way for people to earn their way to permanent residency and earn their way to citizenship. It's not automatic by any means. And under this, I mean, they'd have to meet certain requirements, they'd have to provide certain documentation, and it's not just for anybody. So, it is a compromise bill. It does leave a lot of people out, and not everyone's going to be happy with this, obviously. But
what about those seeking asylum?
Yeah, so for asylum seekers, there is actually one change that's interesting. One thing that it does is it gets rid of the one-year filing bar. And what that means is under asylum law currently, you have to apply within 1 year of your entry into the U.S. for asylum. It's really a poor policy because you end up having a lot of cases where people with legitimate claims, they can't apply within that 1 year period for one reason or another, and it's really difficult to show that one of the exceptions apply. So it's really something that's a good change because it is going to allow for those legitimate claims to actually be heard.
So with all this, what are you advising people? What are you saying?
Well, I mean, right now, since it's just a bill, I'm really telling people what we're doing is a lot of wait and see. It's really important that people stay informed and they know what's going on, but at the same time, this is similar to the Deferred Action Program with the Dreamer students, that you really just have to be patient and to make sure that you're getting good information, that you're getting information that, isn't from disreputable sources. So
as far as the Dreamers are concerned, are they addressed in this bill?
They are. In fact, the Dreamers come out really well in this bill. I think it really does signify the special status of that population and the recognition that that these senators have of their special status. So they do have sort of an expedited process for permanent residency and then citizenship. So.
And as you mentioned, I mean, it's so broad, and there's so much in there. It's not only broad but complicated at the same time. We're going to see a lot of amendments, don't you think?
Oh, I think there will probably be quite a lot of debate, quite a lot of amendments on this. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it'll be an entertaining couple of months. So.
All right. Well, it's good to get a better definition of what's going on here. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
Lawmakers revive a medical care pricing bill and send a gun measure to the governor. Here now with our midweek legislative update is Luigi Del Puerto of the Arizona Capital Times. Luigi, always a pleasure. Before we even get to all of that, let's update the budget. What's happening with that?
So this morning we asked Senate President Andy Biggs that since it's already April, middle of April already, and so we still don't have a budget, whether he is prepared as the leader of the Senate to go ahead and pass their own Senate proposal without the governor's buy-in, and basically prod the process along. Now, this tactic has been done before to get the two sides moving if there's a stalemate or so. And he said, nope, he's not prepared to pick up fight with the governor over the budget. And he said, as long as the two sides are meeting, and they're meeting regularly as the staff level, as long as they're making some progress and agreeing on numbers, they're in the room together. And he said, we're not going to do that.
So if he were to go ahead and send something out with his own set of numbers, that would be basically a bring it on kind of message, isn't it?
Yes, it would be. It would be him poking the governor in the eye directly.
Yeah. Okay. So, but the encouraging news is there that they are talking. There is some negotiation. There may be some yelling and screaming, but it's behind closed doors, and at least they're yelling and screaming at each other.
Yes, and he said that in fact things would happen very quickly. As you know, if they get to some point when they're ready to propose a budget that has the buy-in of all sides, things can move very quickly.
All right. Things moved as far as a bill involving, a lot of cities have gun buyback programs. They buy the stuff and then they melt it down and we all move on. We may not move on if this bill becomes law. What's going on here? Well,
if you recall, about 3 years ago, the state legislature enacted a law that basically required the police to sell the guns that they had seized, guns they had confiscated or guns that were forfeited during the commission of a crime, to licensed firearms dealers. Well, there's a loophole in that law, and that loophole is being exploited by some of these cities. For example, the city of Tucson with their gun buyback programs. And that loophole basically is that the argument is that the guns that should be sold to licensed firearms dealers are the guns that were forfeited or confiscated. Well, these are not guns that were forfeited or confiscated. These are guns that were voluntarily turned in by the gun owners. They don't want them anymore in the house. They're old. They're not usable, and so they're not defined as the ones that should be sold to licensed firearms dealers. So what happened this year is that lawmakers who are pro-gun introduced a bill, and that's been passed now by both bodies, the House and the Senate, basically said local governments, law enforcement, local any political subdivision of the state may not or should not or cannot facilitate the destruction of a firearm. Basically stops Tucson from destroying those firearms that they might have recovered from their gun buyback program.
Why?
Well, there is, that's a very good question, but as you know, Arizona has always had this very strong tradition when it comes to the Second Amendment right. There's a strong segment of a strong number of lawmakers who just don't think that guns should be destroyed, that they think that the cities are wasting their time by buying all these guns and then destroying them, that there's a better use to them, and that's by circulating back into the market and having returns as a result.
I guess you could also argue that cities are wasting money by melting these things down?
Yeah, and that's part of the argument. There was a very spirited debate, as you can imagine. This is, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first gun bill out of the legislature this year, and it deals with this subject. So some people are upset by that. Democrats, for example, said, hey, why are we wasting our time discussing this particular issue when we should be discussing the larger problem of society as regards to mental illness and guns and gun safety?
The governor, what do you think? Governor likely to sign this?
No, you know what? It's so tough to see in advance or even to have a sense how the governor would act on gun bills. I mean, in the main, she has been very pro-gun. She's been a great ally of the National Rifle Association, but she has vetoed proposals to expand gun use before. So it's tough to say how she would react or respond on this particular bill.
It also seems like she gets a little touchy when it comes to states meddling into county and city activities.
Yeah, yes, and that's a recurring theme, if you will, in previous actions that she has made. And she's always thought that the local government is closest to the people and therefore the best to deal with issues. And I'm not sure if that necessarily extends into the gun issue, but she has always preferred that local governments deal with with local issues.
Before we go, the Senate revived this medical care pricing bill. This was the one, speaking of governor vetoes, this was vetoed, and the sponsor wasn't all that happy about it and couldn't figure it out. So what, bring it back up and try again? What's happening here?
But she has amended that vetoed bill onto another legislation to revive it. So now it's back on the table. And let's see what the governor does, assuming it gets to her desk.
And you have to, the idea is you have to post price, every hospital or medical facility has to post prices for or at least for common medical procedures?
Yeah, so right now you go into a hospital. I went to an orthopedic doctor a few weeks ago. I had my copay, which was about $40. I don't really have any idea how much the whole thing costs. So the idea of this bill is that if you requested it, the healthcare facility or a hospital would post the 25 most common, the prices, rather, of the 25 most common services that they offer, just to give an idea to those who are don't have an insurance but are paying cash, to give them an idea how much they're going to have to pay. And also, I guess the idea is to bring the prices down. You know, if you shine a light on how much these folks are charging, you could probably bring the prices down as a result of competition.
I would imagine the healthcare industry is not supporting this?
No, they're not. They're against it. The hospitals are against it. Many medical associations are against it. And I think that weighed into as well into the governor's decision to veto this bill.
I was going to say, will that weigh into her next decision as well? Because Medicaid is still, it's an 800-pound gorilla. It's still sitting out there.
Yeah, well, there's some speculation, and we don't know to what extent it is true or not, or whether it is true at all, but there is some speculation that the governor may be sending a message to Bardo and saying, hey, look, I want my Medicaid proposal through, and unless I get that one, well, you're not getting yours.
So, last question. You think she's going to sign this new amended version?
The closest that we can gauge as to whether she would or not was a few years ago when she vetoed a proposal twice. They sent it to her. She said no. They sent it to her again, and she said no again.
All right, Luigi, good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Our continuing coverage of Arizona technology and innovation issues focuses tonight on a young app developer. Perry Waxman is 18 years old, Valley Lutheran High School student, and his development of mobile device applications led him to a job with Apple. Perry Waxman joins us now to tell us about his work. It's good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's define some terms here. What is an app? How does one create an app?
Well, an app is basically a shortened term for application. Apps can do basically anything you want for whatever reason. So a calculator, a GPS is an application, basically anything.
So how do you develop one of these things?
Well, if you're going to develop for Apple, you have to use their arbitrary development tools. So you register through their developer network, and you get coding.
And once you get coding, I mean, it really. We have some shots, I think, of your notes. It looks awfully complicated.
It is.
Is it that complicated?
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah. So, and what we're looking at now, is this more design?
Yeah, those are just notes and just some really just sketches of an app I'm coming out with in the coming months. It's a game. It's super simple. It's really just in its infancy right now. I haven't even started going to the computer yet. It's all drawings.
So what got you started in this?
Well, I just thought it was really interesting how I could reach so many people with something, pretty simple. And also that I could create something out of nothing, basically.
And we're looking at the code here. This is obviously a foreign language to most of us. But but even for you, you're familiar with this, it still takes a lot of time, doesn't it?
Yeah, it takes a lot of research and patience.
Yeah, I'll bet. Was there an app that first got you thinking, I want to do this? Like an inspirational kind of a thing?
I wouldn't say just an app, but just how people are so tied to software.
Yeah.
And how intimate it can be and how people can be emotional about it. Mm-hmm. That to me is really interesting.
So you can really connect. So it's a way to connect with folks is what it is. Mm-hmm. Now, how many apps have you developed so far?
3 so far.
3, and how many folks have downloaded these things?
About 12,000 or so.
12,000. Do you get response? Does someone from Maine send you a little note saying, I love it or I hate it? Or?
Some people can review on it. Not many people have. But
Yeah.
I can, see who's downloading them in which countries or, my frequencies and percentages of how much I'm losing or gaining and stuff like that.
And they are downloading it around the world?
Yeah.
It's kind of a kick, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
To know that they're doing this. What do your apps do? I know you've got your iPad there. Show us real quick. I know you have is like a GPS kind of a thing there, or a game, or what do you got?
Well, one of them's LNL, which stands for latitude and longitude. And then what it does here is...
Okay, go ahead and tell us what it does, and we'll take a look at it.
It finds where we are,
Okay.
or wherever someone else is. You can't find where other people are because that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, yeah.
But it gives us our latitude and longitude in numbers.
There you go. Hold it up for the camera there so we can take a look at it. And that's on your iPhone. And
Yeah.
now, what is it exactly doing there?
It found where we are.
Yes.
So we're in the Walter Cronkite School.
We indeed are.
And it gives us our latitude and longitude. It's kind of hard to read it, but it's up here.
Yeah. And that's basically it.
Yeah,
Now,
that's
what
it.
made you want to do something like that?
You know, I was just doing some experimentation with some code and stuff with core location and frameworks like that, and I thought, you know, why not make it?
Yeah.
So.
And what kind of response have you had to that one?
No one's really done any reviews. You know, it's not that significant of an app.
Yeah.
It's super simple.
Yeah.
But from what my friends have told me, it's cool, I guess. Yeah.
Speaking of your friends at school, what do they think of Mr. Big Shot over here developing apps and working for Apple?
Well, I try and stay as humble as I can. I don't really like to, you know, tell people all about it. I just, you know, just do my own thing. They think it's cool, I guess. It's kind of nerdy, but to me, that's not how it should be viewed, because so many people use so much technology today, and that being solely for like a nerdy crowd isn't correct.
Yes. And
know.
we're looking again at the longitude, the L and L as
Yeah,
they call it. What about the family? What does the family think of this?
My family's pretty impressed.
I'll bet they are. I'll
Yeah.
bet they. Now, when you first told them you wanted to design and develop apps, was it kind of like, oh, that's nice, go ahead and have fun, or did they know you were serious about this?
They knew I was pretty serious because, you know, I was, you know, spending hours upon hours a week doing it. You know, getting really frustrated and talking about it to them at dinner or whatever. So yeah.
So okay. So you're at Valley Lutheran now. You're senior at Valley Lutheran, right?
Yes.
Okay. Headed to
ASU.
So you're going to go to ASU.
Yeah.
Forget Harvard. Forget Stanford. This is the place to be.
This
Barrett
place-
honors, I would imagine.
Yep, I'm in Barrett.
And what are you going to do with yourself?
I'm going to major in computer science, software engineering, and I hope to be pretty successful in that.
And you're going to try to be what, entrepreneur? Maybe work for a company?
Yeah,
What do you
maybe
think?
work for a company at first or start my own startup or whatever.
When you started, something back to when you started, was there research? Did you have to, was it trial and error? How do you know what to do?
A lot of trial and error, a lot of research, a lot of books. I've bought a lot of books about it. YouTube's a great resource to watch people do it, talk about it. But to me, learning is the best when someone else can teach you person to person.
So like that mentoring, almost a mentoring kind of situation.
Yeah.
You see yourself as maybe mentoring some youngsters yourself?
Hopefully one day.
Yeah, yeah. As far as where you're going to take this in the future now, do you see yourself developing more in the way of games, more in the way of like the L&L? What do you think?
I'm not sure. My next app is going to be a game, so we're going to see how that comes out. But I think the most important software is that can really influence people on how they do things, whether or not it's social networking, just communication in general, or entertainment. But just to really get someone into their technology is what I'm looking for.
So almost instructional in a way?
Yeah, instructional, you know, whatever I can think of, I would probably do.
And as far as working for Apple, now how did this get started?
Well, you just register in their developer portal, and then they give you all the resources you could ask for, and then you just start developing.
So basically, it's not so much that they come knock on your door and say, here, sign a contract.
No.
It's basically you're working for Apple along with a lot of other folks doing this?
Yes, there are, you know, thousands of other developers.
Yeah. So this has got to be pretty exciting for you. I mean, I find it fascinating that you just all of a sudden decided on your own you were going to do this. I mean, there had to be a point in which you realized it was doable. I mean, were you ever discouraged early on?
Extremely discouraged. I was mad, frustrated, but when you actually do something, like something as simple as getting words on the screen,
Yes.
is so profound and exciting when you're first starting this that you just want to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and making it better and better and better.
Okay, and you said you've developed games, you develop instructional stuff. Really, you can do whatever you want to do, can't you? I mean, have you
Literally.
hit that point right now where you feel like you can, if it comes to your mind, you can develop it?
Yeah, certainly. The only thing stopping anyone from anything is themselves.
Yeah.
With this, or anything else for that matter.
And that there's still always something to learn, though, isn't there?
Of course.
Okay. Congratulations. Good luck at ASU. Thanks for sticking around for that, too, because we need you. And continued success. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And Thursday on Arizona Horizon, we'll look at the politics involved in the new comprehensive immigration bill, and we'll hear from a resident of Superior who supports a massive copper mine proposed for the area. That's at 5:30 and 10 on the next Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Support for Arizona technology and innovation on Horizon comes from Intel, helping to transform the lives of millions through education, working with countries, communities, and schools worldwide to bring the resources and solutions needed for advancing education. For information, Intel.com.